Okay, so this is activity 12 practice on page 159, but we're just going to do the lesson 12-2 part, which starts at number 7. So what would happen to the slope of the graph if y equals 2/3 x minus 3 if the line were shifted up 6 units? So 6 units up. The slope is actually going to remain the same. So I can move this whole line and pick it up. You know, it's going to look something like this. The slope's the same. I just pick that pencil up and move it up 6 units. It's going to be a parallel line because it'll have the same slope. So nothing happens by changing the y-intercept. We actually graphed a whole bunch of graphs that had the slope of 2/3 in our lesson 12-2. So you can refer back to your notes for proof of that, but that is what would happen. Number 8 says, explain how the slope of y equals 2x minus 3 can be used to graph the equation. So slope is a change in y over a change in x. So if I have a starting point, which I do, always my y-intercept is a great place to start at. This would be at 0, -3. And then I would use the rate of change 2/1 to finish graphing. So this would be 2 go up 2 units over 1 unit. So something like this. I would start at 0, -3, which would be right here. And this change in y means go up. 1, 2, go +1. So there's a point. Up 2, +1. There's another point. And I could keep doing that, and this would make a very beautiful straight line. Okay, number 9 says compare and contrast the slopes for the equations. You write them down. Y equals x. Y equals 1/3 x. And y equals 2/3 x. What conclusions can you draw about the slope of the lines? So the larger the absolute value of the slope, the steeper the line, and the smaller the absolute value of the slope, the flatter the line. So remember, there's not a coefficient right here, but the slope of this one is going to be 1. Remember, if there's not a coefficient in front of the letter, if there's not 1, it is 1. Okay, so we have 1x. 1 is the largest number out of these that are given to me. So 1 is greater than 2/3, which is also, I almost wrote less than, which is also greater than 1/3. So this would be the order most steep to the flattest slope given. So you have to know your fractions pretty good. That 1/3 is less than 2/3, which is less than 1 whole. Okay? So now number 10 says write in the equation of the line that is steeper than the line y equals 1/2 x, but has a slope less than, still has to be less than 1. So I still need to have a fraction is what this is saying, but it needs to be steeper than 1/2. So a fraction that's bigger than a half would be 2/3. 2/3 is bigger than a half. 3/5, 4/5, those are all bigger. I mean, this is infinitely many solutions here to this problem, but it also has infinitely many wrong solutions. So you just need to be able to know your fractions. What is a fraction that's bigger than a half but smaller than 1? Okay, so that would be maybe a little tricky. 3/4 would be a good one. 3/4 is bigger than half, so y equals 3/4 x. So anyway, lots of solutions to that one. Now it says write an equation of the line graph below. So now let's see if I can fit my book in the picture here. Here's the graph, and I need to write an equation. So 11 says, here, let me go like this. 11 has we need a y equals mx plus b, which means I need a slope and a y-intercept. So I just need to fill in some blanks. The y-intercept looks like it's at 0, 0, and if I count on the slope, I would go, a really good point's going to be right there and right there. So if I go up 1, that's my change in y, and I go for a run of 3, that's 1/3. So this is okay, but more simplified would be to get rid of the 0 in front. So, I'm sorry, in the back, because we don't need to write a 0. Anything, if I add 0 to anything, it's still just itself. So my rise over run is 1/3. Okay, number 12. The two graphs given below represent different linear relationships. Which line has the larger slope? Well, we had one like this in class as well. Visually, I can tell the larger slope is the one on the left because it's just more steep. The left is more steep, but I need to have numbers to prove it, right? More steeper. Okay, good thing I'm not an English teacher. It's more steep. There we go. Oh, spelling is not my forte. So explain your reasoning. All right, so let's look at this first line. It looks like the slope of the first line, which I'm going to use m for slope. If I go from -3 up to 0, that's 3. And if I go over, I'm going to have to go up 4 to get to a good point, because right here is the good point. So up 4 over 2. Okay, so that's a slope of 2. The one on the right, oh goodness, it's hard to find good points. It's so tiny on my book. My book is about 2/3 the size of yours. But if I pick one here, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I go over 6 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 over 6 is the same as 2/3. Whew, that's what I got. So 2 is definitely larger than 2/3. So that's my answer. And last on this section, what is the slope of each line in item 12? Explain the steps you used to find each slope. Oh good, I already did number 13 by finding the slopes. So we are all done with the 12-2 part of activity 12 practice.